Live, love, and lead. Live exemplarily, love authentically, and lead relationally. This is the Inspired Family Leader Program with Samuel A. Bakutana, your host. A certified executive coach, an award-winning leadership consultant, a global speaker, and author of 17 books in the areas of leadership, business, education, and relationships. I am the CEO of Inspired Leaders International, an international leadership development firm that empowers leaders to transform their nations. And I am the Provincial Fathers Union President. It's a pleasure to have you today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching me from around the world. This program is here to equip, empower, and encourage men, particularly men, to be able to expand their family leadership capacity for national transformation. Today is a special moment. It's a special edition of this program, the Inspired Family Leader Program. Right now, I am standing at the heart of the city of Kampala, in the nation of Uganda, in East Africa, on the African continent. And in Uganda, where I am today, it is the 3rd of June. And the 3rd of June is a unique day in the history of this nation, Uganda. Because more than 100 years ago, in the 1800s, a team of 45 men, young men to be particular, decided to stand for what they believed in. Decided to be men of courage and boldness. Decided to put their life on the line for the sake of what they thought or believed or within themselves agreed that it was of more importance than even their life. They were killed by burning in the city of Kampala in Uganda, at a place called Namugongo. And that place is called Namugongo, historically speaking, because the word Omugongo in the Bantu languages of Uganda actually means the back, one's back. So that place is called Namugongo because those 45 young men, they arrived in that place while they were being pulled on their back. The back was down on the ground. They were pulled to that place. So in the language of central Uganda called Luganda, they would say, Watu sewa no namugongo. In other words, they have arrived here on their backs. They sacrificed their life for the sake of what they believed was of paramount importance more than their life. Today, we are here to talk about the topic of the sacrificial man. The sacrificial man is our topic this evening. So welcome to the Inspired Family Leader Program. Now, I know that we have had very many different examples of men who sacrificed their life, who sacrificed a lot. Not only just their life or not even their life, but made a number of sacrifices as we are about to be seeing. Probably in your own life, you've seen a number of men in your life who have demonstrated this principle of sacrifice in tremendous ways. There is a man in the Bible called Hosea. He sacrificed his right to have a moral wife. When God spoke to him and said, go and pick that girl called Gomer, who was actually a prostitute. Bring her here. Let her be your wife. And after a few days of being together, the prostitute, as usual, went back to another man. And God told Hosea, go back and pick him. And he sacrificed a right to have a woman of character, just so that he can fulfill or obey what God had told him to do. There is another man again in scripture, Isaiah the prophet. I read in chapter 20 a verse that almost removed my hair off my head. He sacrificed his right to put on clothes for 3 years. The scriptures say he walked naked for 3 years just to demonstrate God's message to the people of Israel. That's sacrifice of another level. We all know Martin Luther King Jr., who sacrificed his life for civil rights in the United States of America. He sacrificed his own life for the sake of black people being treated with respect, being seen as human beings just like anybody else. And he died a very young man, Baptist pastor in the US. Some of you may be aware of a gentleman called John Bunyan. John Bunyan sacrificed his freedom and went into prison for the sake of proclaiming the message he believed in. They found him on the roadside proclaiming a message he strongly believed in. And I'm told he was doing that without a license, because where he was living, people who had to do that had to first acquire some sort of a license. So he went out there to proclaim the message he believed in without government clearance, and he was put in prison. He sacrificed his freedom. But it was during that time when he was in prison that he wrote a powerful, enduring classical book called The Pilgrim's Progress. The Pilgrim's Progress, which later was transformed into a wonderful movie. I encourage you to watch it, The Pilgrim's Progress. Paul, the tent-making businessman of Tarsus, he also sacrificed his freedom and was in and out of prison, not for being a criminal, but being a man of conviction, who believed in the calling that was upon his life, who believed in what he was standing for. And so he was in and out of prison, as he was being told to denounce his own faith. Again, it was during that time when he was in and out of prison that he wrote books and letters. He wrote letters to his friends in a place called Ephesus. He wrote a book to his friends in Rome. He wrote another book to the people in Colossae. He wrote another book to the people in Philippi. He wrote another book to the whole community of Corinth, the town of Corinth. He wrote another book to the people of Thessalonica. It was during those tough times when he sacrificed his freedom that he had enough time to think even more soberly, have enough time, get a pen and write on the paper and write enduring words that we now have in books, in the epistles that we read every now and again to strengthen our resolve to follow the Master. The sacrificial man. Probably some of you know a person called Osiora Makati. Osiora Makati was a lady. This lady sacrificed her life savings for university students. She was washing clothes as her work to get money that she put in a savings for many years of her life, decades and decades. And before she died, she wrote a will and said, I never went to school. So all the money I have worked for the last couple of decades that I've been saving, it should go to open up a fund to educate students to be able to go to the university. A sacrificial leader. All of us know, especially those of you who are in Uganda, in East Africa, a young girl called Nabukera at Budo Junior, who sacrificed her life for her fellow students. When their dormitory, was being burnt to ashes, caught fire, and she ran back inside to rescue some of her fellow students. Unfortunately, she did not manage to come out of the fire. She sacrificed her life as she was trying to save the life of others. Today we are talking about the sacrificial man. Question: what are you willing to sacrifice as a price for an impactful life as a man? We as men, we should not just be people who live through life and pass through life and die. We should be men who leave an impact on earth. We should be men who leave an impact of a family legacy that is very transformational. We should become men of impact, not just men of success, but men of significance, whose life has a great meaning, not only to ourselves as men, but also to our wives, also to our children, to our neighbors, to our workmates, to the people in the community, to our nations. You cannot be a man of significance, a man of purpose, unless you become a sacrificial man at heart. You have an attitude of sacrifice. Now, the problem is that today we live in a time where most men cannot think in terms of sacrifice. I will tell you, for example, first of all, many men have the sin, I'm calling it a sin, the sin of entitlement. The sin of entitlement. That's why they always remind people around them of their titles. Beginning with our families. You find that as a man, you are always reminding your children, hey, excuse me, I am your father. Keep quiet, I am the father here. Let me tell you, by the time you have to remind your children that you are their father, already there is a dent in your own fatherhood. Hey, woman, shut up, I am your husband. Hey. A sense of entitlement. By the time you have to remind your wife that you are her husband, you have already lost a huge, huge, huge treasure in your own life as a man in your family. She knows. She knows you are the husband. The children know you are the father. But because of this sin of entitlement that most of us men have, we have to remind people that we are fathers, that we are husbands. It was Margaret Thatcher, that British Iron Lady, who made a statement and said, leadership, being a leader is like being a lady. If you have to say that you are one, most likely you are not. Let me repeat that statement. Being a leader is like being a lady. If you have to tell people that you are one, most probably you are not. The sin of entitlement. But secondly, another problem that I see amongst most of us men is the obsession with rights. Obsession with rights. Sometimes we even seek legal redress so that we can be given what we claim are rights when actually they are wrongs. I have seen many men on our roads demonstrating, we want our human rights, we want our human rights. But when you look at what they are demonstrating for, clearly it's not a human right. It is a human wrong by all social ethical standards. That's a problem amongst us men. Obsession with rights. But there is also number 3, the hunger for more privileges. I've seen men in workplaces clamoring for more privileges, clamoring for more allowances, clamoring for bonuses, clamoring for many things. Even, by the way, when they may not be producing great results that require bonuses and more allowances. But the clamoring for more privileges is one of the characteristics of many men today. I also see many men who are silent about their responsibilities. In their workplace, they are silent about their responsibilities. In their homes, their wives are struggling with things they shouldn't be struggling with, because the man is silent about his own responsibilities. I have seen other men who are absent where their presence is necessary, because they don't want to sacrifice time, so they won't be available. They don't want to sacrifice comfort, so they want to be available, because going for a certain place is uncomfortable for them. So as a result, we are found to be absent where we are supposed to be present. When it was your wife's birthday, did you show up? Recently, when it was the visiting day of your son, of your daughter, did you show up? The other time, when it was Parents' Day at school, Parents-Teachers meeting, did you show up as a man? Don't turn off the TV. Don't turn off the TV and now rush for sports. No, let's talk. Let's talk. Don't turn it off. Let's talk. Did you show up? When they called for a men's meeting in your faith center at your local church, they said, let the members of Christian Men Fellowship come. Let the members of Fathers Union come. Let all the men come for a meeting. Did you show up? Because we are lacking a heart of sacrifice, we are now characterized by absence where our presence is necessary. So sad. We are talking about the sacrificial men. And I'm about to get deep into the practical nitty-gritties of what we actually need to do in order to see that happen. I see other men who have excessive love for comfort. I can assure you, I want to live a comfortable life. I can assure you, I want to see my family comfortable. I can assure you, I am doing many things to ensure my wife is comfortable. I am doing many things to ensure my children are comfortable. But let me tell you something. The moment I become so obsessed with comfort, there is no way how I will not make some wrong decisions in my life. I am about to be explaining why that is as I have said it. I also see many other men who have an attitude of indifference, an attitude of aloofness, the I don't care attitude. I heard about a story of a man who was asked. They said, what do you think is the biggest problem of the world today? Is it indifference or it is ignorance? You know, indifference is whereby you don't care. Ignorance is whereby you don't know. So he was asked, what do you think is the problem of the world today? The biggest problem, is it indifference or it is ignorance? And he said, I don't know and I don't care. So he demonstrated both ignorance and indifference. I don't know and I don't care. Many of us men are busy having that attitude of indifference. You see your neighbor suffering, you don't care. You see your wife sad, you don't care. You see your children becoming immoral, you don't care. You see the community suffering where you could help, you don't care. You see your nation going to the dogs, you don't care. You see this and you don't care. You see your life going away, being wasted, and you don't care. Let me tell you, the sacrificial man will care, will not have an attitude of indifference. Now, I want to remind us that indeed, one of the greatest hallmarks of manhood is sacrifice. I really appreciate many of you who have been watching this program, the Inspired Family Leader program, and even sending back feedback. And one of you, I remember, gave me feedback when you met me at Shoma Christian Academy recently. And you said, I watch the program every Saturday with my wife. And every time we are watching, I get my pen and notebook and take notes and write. Now, if you are still writing, write down that statement I just said. Let me repeat it. One of the greatest hallmarks of manhood is sacrifice. One of the greatest hallmarks of manhood is sacrifice. Now, as I was preparing to come and share today, I remembered one of the things I read in a book by John Maxwell many years ago. The book is called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. One of the laws of leadership is the law of sacrifice. John Maxwell says, the law of sacrifice says a leader must give up to go up. A leader must give up to go up. And giving up is now not in this context of I have tried, I have failed, now let me give up. No, it is in the context of giving up something intentionally, deliberately, in order to go up somewhere. Intentionally, deliberately. A leader must give up something in order to go up somewhere. That's the law of sacrifice. So are you willing to sacrifice something as a man? Are you willing to forget your entitlements even when you deserve them? I was reading about a gentleman, Lee Iacocca, the former chairman of Chrysler Motors in the US, chairman and CEO of Chrysler Motors, who was entitled to a salary, who was entitled to emoluments, who was entitled, to many different privileges as the leader of the motor corporation. But because of the kind of environment that was prevailing at the time, because of the situation that was there in the organization, he decided to take a serious sacrifice by forgetting his own entitlements. He said, I am going to be taking a salary of only $1. $1 a year. Do you know what that means? Are you willing to forget some of your entitlements for the sake of the big picture in your life as a man? Are you willing to reduce some demands for some of your rights? The higher you go in leadership, the more you should look at your responsibilities much more than you look at your rights. Are you willing to reduce demands for your rights? Are you willing to concentrate on your responsibilities? Your responsibilities to your creator, your responsibilities to yourself, your responsibilities to your wife, your responsibilities to your children, your responsibilities to your workmates, your responsibilities to your supervisor, your responsibilities to your direct reports, the people you supervise in your workplace. Are you willing to focus on your responsibilities much more than you focus on your rights? A sacrificial man is a man of responsibility, not a man who clamors for his rights, even when rights are important. Are you really willing and ready? Are you willing and ready to think less of your privileges and advance in self-leadership and self-management? Because one of the hallmarks of sacrificial living is good self-management, good self-leadership. A leader must give up in order to go up. A leader must give up something in order to go up somewhere. So let's take just a short break of about a minute or two, and then we will be back. And when I come back, we will be now getting deep into what should I sacrifice as a man. Secondly, what should I not sacrifice as a man, even when we say that we have to sacrifice. And then we will look at what we need to go and now do as practical action points. The Sacrificial Man. This is the Inspired Family Leader Program with Samuel A. Bakutana. Don't go away. A leader must give up in order to go up. Not giving up in a sense of throwing, in the towel, but in a sense of sacrificing something. Welcome back to the Inspired Family Leader Program with Samuel A. Bakutana, your host. Today we are talking about the Sacrificial Man. On this 3rd of June, when we are commemorating the Uganda martyrs who sacrificed their life for the sake of what they believed was of greater importance than their own life. Today, we as men, we need to reflect on our willingness to be sacrificial men. Now, let the rubber hit the road. What should we sacrifice? A number of things. Number one, as a man, sacrifice your comfort for the sake of impact. That's number one. Sacrifice your comfort for the sake of impact. Now, let me tell you this. I am not saying that you should not be comfortable at all. I am not saying you should be in discomfort intentionally all the time. No, what I'm saying is, don't be obsessed with comfort to the point that you lack the ability to be impactful. You need to be able to sacrifice some level of comfort, some percentage of comfort, if you are going to be a man of impact. That is what sacrificial men do. Number two, Sacrifice impression for real transformation. Sacrifice impression for real transformation. If there is one thing that most of us men know how to do very well, is to just do everything possible to impress people around us. Yeah. We tend to speak so big, we talk big in order to impress. We dress big to impress. We buy huge cars to impress. We build big houses to impress. We speak tough English to impress. We use the money we don't have to buy the things we don't need just to impress people who don't care, who are not even watching. To be a sacrificial man, you need to sacrifice impression for real transformation. Can you put aside this deep desire to impress people and start to hunger for real transformation? Transformation at your own level as a man, being transformed. Yesterday, at Inspired Leaders International, where I'm the Chief Executive Officer, we graduated a team of managers from one of our government agencies that we've been training for 5 full days in the management leadership training. And one of the things we talked about was the issue of transformation. And we gave an example of what we used to hear when we were in high school. They used to teach us about the transatlantic trade, the trans-Pacific trade. And we reminded ourselves that when we say transatlantic trade, we are talking about the trade, the business engagements that happened across the Atlantic Ocean. Transatlantic means across the Atlantic. So when we say transformation, it means across formation. Transformation is being formed across all the areas of your life. That spiritually, you are not fundamentally castrated. Socially, you are not in loneliness. Physically, you are fit. You see? When it comes to the finances, you are moving, you are growing. Mentally, intellectually, when they give you a microphone to say something, you don't spend 5 minutes talking when people can't pick any point you've said. Being formed across transformation. We should focus much more on real transformation in our life, not just impression of the people around us. When internally, you as a man, you are hollow, you are shallow, you are narrow. Sacrifice impression for the sake of real transformation. Not only towards yourself, transformation of your life, but also sacrifice trying to impress others and start to try to transform them with your own life. Number 3, what should you sacrifice as a man? Number 3, you need to sacrifice success for significance. And I know that this may shock somebody, because everybody wants to succeed. I want to succeed. I am already succeeding at some things. I have goals that I have set for myself. I am now working on Samuel A. Bakutana Vision 2050 that I set in place a few years ago, and I've been working on it. When I hit those goals along the years, I will say I am succeeding at achieving those goals. But let me tell you, my focus is not on success. My focus is on significance. I shared this recently somewhere. And somebody put up his hand and said, but you see, the moment you achieve that significance you are talking about, we can still call it success. You have succeeded in achieving your significance. It was quite a discussion. And I see his point. But what am I focusing on? My focus is not on success. My focus is on living a life of value, living a life of significance, living a life that is very meaningful. Success is just about achieving an objective. It's just about hitting a target. Success is really just about achieving a goal, an objective you set for yourself. A target, a mark, that's success at the basic level. It can be expressed in different ways depending on what the goal is, what the aspiration is in your life as a man. But on the other hand, significance is impactfully living a life of great meaning. Meaning not just yourself, but meaning to your family. That you live a life that is meaningful to your wife. You live a life that is meaningful to your children. You live a life that is meaningful to the people around you. The other day, I was passing somewhere near our home where we stay, and I found a gentleman who was doing his best together with a team of other two men to clear the place near the road, to put some sand in the sacks and make sure that they make the place good enough for cars to pass very well, and I was impressed at the heart he had together with the other two gentlemen to make sure that the community is good. So I quickly asked, is there any other need? And he told me, we still need more sand, we still need more sacks, we still need this and this. We still need labor to complete the other side. And I said, okay, tell me how much sand, how much the labor, how much the sacks. And he told me the total, picked it from my pocket, put it there. I want to be meaningful to my community. Sacrificial man. Number 4, what should you sacrifice? You should sacrifice your pride for humble heroism. Sacrifice your ego, your pride for humble heroism. The Creator blessed us, the men, with that button called ego. And I've always told women especially that they should not smash and destroy their husband's ego, because it is a positive thing that the Creator gave to the men to enable us to lead our families with firmness, courage, and direction. That ego, if it is well directed, it is a positive thing. It helps the man to stand up for his wife. It helps the man to stand up for his children. But now the problem is that the enemy has hijacked that positive tool and equipment that the Creator gave to us as men, and many times we now use it to hit on the head of those that are around us that we should be lifting up because of pride. As a sacrificial man of impact, of transformation, it's important that you sacrifice your pride to be a humble hero. Real heroes are men and women of humility. Not those who blow their trumpets all over the place. Number 5, sacrifice disrespect for meaningful relationships. There is no way how you can disrespect and have meaningful relationships at the same time. The person you disrespect will not connect with you meaningfully. So as a sacrificial man, you and I, we need to have a sense of respect if we are going to have meaningful relationships. Any relationship, beginning with relationships in our families as a fundamental relationship. Having respect for your wife, having respect for your children, having respect for yourself first, because you won't be able to give what you don't have. You can only respect others to the degree to which you respect yourself. So sacrifice disrespect for the sake of meaningful relationships. Number 6, sacrifice violence for peaceful coexistence. This week, 3 days ago, I spoke to an audience where I said, I don't understand a man who raises his hand and slaps his wife. Let him slap the neighbor, let him slap whatever, I don't know, for whichever reason, but not slapping his own wife that he said, I love you, and he still says, I love you. We can sacrifice violence, men, for the sake of peaceful coexistence. We can choose peaceful coexistence with our children, with our relatives, with our competitors, with our fellow contenders in leadership, with our neighbors, with our workmates. We can choose peaceful coexistence. Number 7, sacrifice intimidation for real influence. Many of us men, many times we take it upon our lives, upon ourselves, to think that for us to make things move, we have to threaten. For us to make people listen to us, we have to intimidate. But I think it is time for us to sacrifice intimidation and threats for real influence. We can actually learn dynamics of influence. I think one of these days we should have a conversation about being a man of influence on this program. It's possible to learn dynamics of influence. So instead of taking on a life of intimidation and threats, let's instead take on a life of real influence. Number 8, you and I need to sacrifice childishness for mature living. Do you know that one of the highest definitions of maturity is responsibility? But you and I know many men in our lives around us who act childishly, and they are happy about it. And they show no sense of social intelligence and remorse. They really act like babies, even when they are in big bodies. I wish I could put it a different way, not what I've just said. Childishness. We need to sacrifice childishness for mature living. We need to think about what it means for a man to be mature and act maturely and think maturely and take mature decisions and take mature actions. Sacrifice childishness for mature living. And lastly, we need to sacrifice some friends for the sake of better character in our life as men. It's clear to us, as it has been written, that bad company corrupts good character. Many of us men, we are taking unethical decisions because of the impact of the people in our lives. We are making wrong choices because of the pressure of our peers. We are moving away from the right direction in life because of the people we have allowed to determine where we are going. Friends in our life, let me tell you, when the Almighty wants to take you to the next level as a man, He will either bring some people into your life or remove some people out of your life. That's how it works. There are some people who were supposed to be in your life up to only a certain time, up to a certain point. And after that point, you need a new set of friends going forward. And of course, somebody may quickly say, isn't that disloyalty? Aren't you saying now we disappoint our friends? No. Seasons come and seasons go. I was talking with one of my staff members at ILI this week, and we were talking together about the fact that there are some of the friends he used to be with in primary school, but now when he looks at them, the way they think, the things they do, he feels he is now at another level in thinking, in action, in decision, in direction. So I told him to be careful with them, to reduce his time he spends with them, and spend more time with people who now think like him or even think better than him, who are able to help him go to a good, better direction in his life. You may want to sacrifice some friendships for the sake of you having a better character. A leader must give up in order to go up. As a man in your family, as a man who deserves to be called a man, it's time for you to choose to be a sacrificial man by giving up something in order to go up somewhere. Now, you could be watching right now this program and saying, yes, yes, talk about it, keep talking. Yes, sacrifice, sacrifice. I've even been telling my wife about it. Been telling my children about it. But then you find that you have been sacrificing what you should not be sacrificing. So yes, you are a sacrificial man, but who is sacrificing what you shouldn't be sacrificing? So let's talk for just about 2 minutes. What shouldn't we sacrifice as men? Number one, please do not sacrifice your health. It has been researched and found out that men, generally speaking, in comparison to women, are more negligent about their health, their physical body. We run up and down and move around like headless chicken and neglect our physical health. We neglect our nutrition. We neglect sleep. We neglect physical exercises. We neglect all that. We keep moving like you are driving the car every day without taking it for service, without changing the oil, without putting in more fuel. A time comes when the car cannot move anymore. And many of us men, we have broken down because we sacrificed our health. Health is wealth. We should not sacrifice our health. My 18th book that comes out in about a month or so largely addresses that. It is called Busy and Loving It. But there is a section where I talk about when busy, can kill you if you're not careful. Don't sacrifice your health. Number 2, do not sacrifice your faith in the Creator. Because sometimes we are submarine believers, just like my friend Bishop Nathan Ahimsibu of South Ankole Diocese one time talked about. He wrote a book called Submarine Christians. Sometimes we are like submarines in our faith. Today you are up, tomorrow you are down. When you are down, nobody knows how long you will take down there until you come up. When you are up here, nobody knows when you will disappear. Submarine in our faith. Do not sacrifice your faith for the sake of these carrots that come, short-term carrots. Number 3, do not sacrifice your values. A sacrificial man does not say, I am going to sacrifice my values. I will only stand for them when it is comfortable. If it's not comfortable, I will suspend them for a moment. Those are not your values. Those are not your values. Those are just your wishes. That's just a facelift you try to put on yourself. Do not sacrifice your values, especially in stormy times, in the turbulent moments. If you stand for nothing, you will fall for anything. Values are a basement rock onto which you stand as a man to make courageous and bold decisions that keep you moving. Number 4, please do not sacrifice your family generally. Generally, as a family, do not sacrifice your family. You know how many times we go, for example, to our workplaces. You leave home at 4:30 a.m. or you leave at 5 a.m. or at 5:30 a.m. when even the children have not seen you, when even your wife is still quite in sleep, and you go away to your workplace. By 7 you are in the workplace, you're working, you're toiling, you're sweating. In the evening you work up to 10 p.m., up to 11 p.m. And then you come back home at midnight. Sleep for 2 hours, 3 hours, and then in the morning you are starting the cycle again as a man. And when somebody complains and says, oh no, as a family we don't see you, we need more of your time, you start to complain. You say, no, I am working for you. I am working for the family. If you are working for them, but you are not working with them, and you are not in the same, let me call it in the same spirit, and you are not together in a relationship as a family, your working for them will not be meaningful. Don't sacrifice your family at the altar of your profession and work. Relatedly, number 5, don't sacrifice your marriage. You say, my wife will understand. My wife will understand. She will only understand when you give her the affection she requires. And number 6, do not sacrifice your children. The way I'm saying, don't let your wife become a widow when you're still alive. Also, don't let your children become orphans when you're still alive. And you know how we have this habit of bribing them. You come home and you only bring gifts, you give presents. After you have sacrificed the time you are supposed to be with them for other things, for chilling with the big boys. You first hang out somewhere else and you sacrifice your children. They never see you, they never know you. You are like a visitor in your home. Your home is not a home where you stay, it is a lodge where you go and sleep over. Your children need your presence first and foremost before they get your presence. Don't sacrifice your children. So my brothers who are watching, as we come to the close of this program, I want you to know that if you are to be a sacrificial man, if I am to be a sacrificial man, if we are to be sacrificial men, then we must learn to fight for something and someone. Not only fighting with, or fighting in, or fighting against, because those are the things we have done very well as men. We fight against corruption. We fight with some people. It's time to now fight for. There is a gentleman in the scriptures called Nehemiah who was a governor in Israel. One time he made a statement in his book that he wrote in the 4th chapter, line 14. And he said, when I looked around and stood up and I said to the important men, the leaders and the rest of the people, and I said, don't be afraid of our enemies. Remember the Creator who is great and powerful, Fight for your brothers, fight for your sons, fight for your daughters, fight for your wives, and fight for your homes. Wow. What a charge he gave to the men. If we are going to be sacrificial men, we need to once again reclaim the spirit of a fighter. Somebody who doesn't fight with, who doesn't fight against, but who fights for. That is positive energy. Fight for your wife. Fight for your son. Fight for your daughter. Fight for your brothers and sisters. Fight for your family. So it's time to do some of these things. It's time for us to go now and adapt without compromising. It's time for you and I to go and pay the price for the better future we deserve. It's time for us to go and do things that have eternal value. It's time for you and I to treasure the pain of discipline so that we will run away from the pain of regret. It's time for you and I to have a higher purpose for life so that it becomes a motivation to stand strong amidst challenges. It's time for you and I to have stronger values and even an ability to say no when we have to say no. It is time. It is time for you and I as men to avoid selfishness and think about others, especially beginning with our own family. Think about them. Think about them, consider them, and willingly delay gratification for the sake of a better tomorrow. A leader must give up in order to go up. So let me end it this way. If you are the wife of a sacrificial man I have been describing, if your man is that kind of a man, please, I request you, number one, to appreciate him. Please appreciate him. Don't take him for granted. Those men are rare. Appreciate him. Secondly, support him to the best of your ability. Be a suitable helper to that sacrificial man. Number three, pray for him, that the Almighty will stand with him and help him. And number four, please respect him. Respect him. Give that man respect. The man that is doing, let me tell you, if a man gets out of his way, goes out of his way to be sacrificial in attitude for his family, you should not add more burdens to him through disrespect, through ingratitude, through lack of support, through disobedience and all that kind of thing. That man deserves to get your sacrifice, to get your support, to get your respect, to get your appreciation. And if you are the son or the daughter of that sacrificial father, you too should honor that man. Honor that man. In fact, tonight before you sleep, get that phone, send him an SMS and say, Daddy, I am proud of you. You have sacrificed for us on many occasions. And it is because of that we are where we are. Daddy, I love you and I pray for you. May you have long life. Honor him. Thank him. Tell him. Let him know you appreciate the sacrifices that he has been making. And most of all, emulate him so that his legacy of sacrificial leadership will live on through you as his daughter or his son. If you have no readiness to sacrifice, you have no right to lead. If you are not ready to sacrifice, you have no right to lead your family. If you are not ready to sacrifice for that family, you have no right to lead it. If you are not ready to sacrifice for that organization, you have no right to be the head of department. If you are not ready to sacrifice something for your country, you have no right to be a community leader in that country. A real man is a sacrificial man. To go up, it's time to give up something. The Inspired Family Leader Program with Samuel A. Bakutana. Until next time, live exemplarily, love authentically, and lead relationally. Bye-bye.